Captain Zathara stood on the bridge of her exploration ship and watched the stars change color on the main screen. The Starlight's Edge was moving toward the most mysterious place in the galaxy. Her crew had been talking about this mission for months. Nobody had ever been to this part of space and returned to tell about it. The Galactic Council ruled over 847 different alien races. They had explored almost every corner of the galaxy in their 3,000 years of existence. Trade ships moved between thousands of worlds every day. Diplomats solved problems between different species. Military fleets kept the peace in dangerous areas. But there was one place that remained completely unknown. The star charts called it the Silent Expanse. It was not a very large area compared to the rest of the galaxy. The region sat near the outer edge where fewer stars existed. Ancient records showed that many ships had tried to explore this area over the centuries. None had ever come back. Some ships sent their last messages saying they detected signs of advanced civilization. Others simply disappeared without any warning. Zathara had scales that changed color when she felt strong emotions. Right now they were shifting from their normal blue to a worried purple. Her large eyes could see much better than most species. But even she felt nervous about what lay ahead. The Velaran Empire had chosen her for this mission because she was their best explorer. She had discovered 12 new worlds and made first contact with 6 different species. But this felt different. Science Officer Thulvin worked at his station with all 4 arms moving across different controls. His species looked like giant octopi, but they were the smartest beings in the galaxy. His voice made bubbling sounds when he spoke. Captain, the sensors are picking up something strange. There are energy readings coming from inside the Silent Expanse that are much stronger than anything we have seen before. Zathara walked over to look at his screen. The readings showed massive amounts of power being generated throughout the region. Whoever lived in this space had technology that was far beyond what the Galactic Council possessed. "How many inhabited worlds do you detect?" she asked. Thulvin's tentacles danced over his instruments. "I count at least 50 worlds with clear signs of intelligent life. The energy signatures suggest they have built structures in space as well. Large ones. Some appear to be bigger than our largest space stations." The captain felt her scales shift to a darker shade of purple. The Silent Expanse was not empty as everyone had believed. It was full of life and activity. But why had nobody ever made contact with whoever lived there? Why had no ships ever returned? Commander Veltar stood at the weapons station. His people were warriors from a desert world and they never showed fear. But even he seemed uncomfortable. "Captain, perhaps we should report back to the Council before we go any further. If there is an advanced civilization in there, they might not want visitors." Zathara considered his words. The safe choice would be to turn around and let the Council decide what to do. But she had come too far to give up now. The galaxy needed to know what was in the Silent Expanse. "We continue forward, but stay alert. All shields up and weapons ready just in case." The ship crossed an invisible line in space. The moment they entered the Silent Expanse, every alarm on the bridge started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. The crew rushed to their stations as the ship's computer announced that unknown vessels were approaching. Zathara grabbed the arms of her command chair as the ship shook. On the main screen, a massive warship appeared out of nowhere. It was 3 times the size of the Starlight's Edge and shaped like a predator ready to strike. The hull was dark gray with strange markings that none of their computers could translate. "Where did that come from?" demanded Veltar. His hands moved over the weapon controls, but he waited for orders. Thulvin checked his sensors with all 4 arms working frantically. "Captain, it just appeared." No energy buildup, no movement from somewhere else. It was just suddenly there. Before anyone could respond, a voice filled the bridge. The translation came through in perfect galactic standard, but the accent was unlike anything in their databases. "Attention, unknown vessel. You have entered sovereign human territory. State your intentions immediately or prepare to be escorted out by force." The word human sent a chill through every crew member. Even species that had never met each other knew that word. It appeared in the oldest records of every civilization. Ancient warnings spoke of humans in whispers, but nobody could remember why everyone feared them. Zathara tried to keep her voice steady as she responded. "This is Captain Zathara of the Galactic Council exploration vessel Starlight's Edge. We come in peace seeking contact and understanding between our peoples." The response came quickly. "Captain, your vessel will follow our ship to a designated area, where you will be met by proper authorities. Any attempt to deviate from the assigned course or to scan our territory will be considered a hostile act." Do you understand these terms? Zethara looked around her bridge at her frightened crew. They were explorers and diplomats, not soldiers. The human ship could destroy them easily if it wanted to. We understand and agree to your terms. Follow us, came the simple reply. As the Starlight's edge fell in behind the human warship, Zethara wondered what they had gotten themselves into. The silent expanse was not empty. It was full of humans, and now she was about to discover why no ship had ever returned from this place. The human vessel moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. Its technology was clearly far beyond anything the Galactic Council possessed. But that was not what worried Zethara the most. What worried her was the casual way the humans had appeared and taken control of the situation. They acted like they had been expecting visitors for a very long time. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the command bridge of the Earth Federation starship Infinity's Dawn and studied the alien vessel following behind them. His weathered face showed no emotion, but inside he felt the weight of history. This moment had been planned for over 200 years. Every detail had been discussed and prepared by Earth's best minds. The alien ship was elegant in design with flowing curves that suggested its builders valued beauty as much as function. Morrison had read the intelligence reports about Velaran engineering. They were skilled shipbuilders, but their technology was at least 50 years behind human standards. The weapons they carried could barely scratch the paint on a human warship. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan worked at the communications station. She was young, but had been chosen for this mission because of her skill with alien languages. Her blonde hair was pulled back in regulation style, and her green eyes focused on the translation programs running across her screens. Admiral, the alien captain, seems nervous. Voice analysis suggests high stress levels, but no signs of deception. Morrison nodded. He had expected the aliens to be afraid. The Galactic Council had been testing the boundaries of human space for decades. Their long-range sensors had detected human activity, but they never dared to cross the line. Fear had kept them away for nearly 4,000 years. Communications Officer Rodriguez, prepare a secure channel to Earth Command. Let them know that Contact Protocol 7 is now active. Morrison turned to the Hispanic woman at the tactical station. Maria Rodriguez had been with him for 15 years, and he trusted her completely. Rodriguez's fingers moved over her controls with practiced ease. Channel open, Admiral. Earth Command confirms they are ready for the next phase. Morrison walked to the center of the bridge where the main holographic display showed both ships moving through space. Behind them, the edge of human territory stretched out in all directions. 50 colonized worlds formed the outer defense ring. Beyond them lay hundreds more human settlements reaching deep into what the aliens called the silent expanse. The truth was that human space was not silent at all. Millions of ships moved between human worlds every day. Massive industrial stations built everything from farming equipment to advanced warships. Universities on a dozen worlds studied every aspect of science and technology. The human civilization had grown far beyond what any Galactic Council species could imagine. Sir, we are approaching the designated meeting coordinates, reported Navigator Chen from his position near the front of the bridge. The young Asian officer had been tracking their course since they left the boundary. Morrison straightened his uniform and prepared for the most important conversation in human history. Open a channel to the alien vessel. Full diplomatic protocols. The main screen changed to show the bridge of the Valoran ship. The alien captain appeared exactly as described in the intelligence files. Her scales were currently a deep purple color, which indicated high stress in her species. Her large eyes showed both curiosity and fear. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Federation. Welcome to human space, Captain Zethara. We have been expecting your people to make contact eventually. The alien captain's scales shifted to an even darker shade. Her surprise was obvious even across the barriers between different species. You know of us. Our presence here comes as no surprise. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had no idea how much humans knew about their activities. Captain Humans have been monitoring Galactic Council activities for over 300 years. We know about your trade routes, your conflicts, your technologies, and your politics. We know which species are at war and which are seeking new alliances. We know about your exploration programs and your scientific discoveries. He paused to let that information sink in. The alien captain's scales were now shifting through several different colors as she tried to process what he had told her. The question is not whether we know about you, Captain. The question is whether you are ready to know about us. Morrison gestured to Rodriguez, who activated a new set of displays. Lieutenant Rodriguez will transmit coordinates to a neutral meeting station on the edge of our territory. The station has been prepared specifically for this meeting. Bring no more than 3 representatives. Come armed only with your curiosity. The alien captain found her voice. Admiral Morrison, if your people have been watching us for so long, why have you never made contact before now? Morrison considered his answer carefully. The truth was complicated and would take hours to explain properly. Captain, that is a question that requires a longer conversation than we can have over ship communications. Come to the meeting station and we will answer all of your questions. He turned to his tactical officer. Commander Lewis, inform Earth Command that Phase 1 of the Revelation Protocol is now active. Tell them the aliens are responding exactly as predicted. Commander Lewis was a tall black man with graying hair, who had served with Morrison for over 20 years. He had been present at most of the planning sessions for this moment. Message sent, Admiral. Earth Command wishes you good luck. As the transmission to the alien ship ended, Morrison looked out at the stars through the bridge viewport. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was probably in emergency session trying to figure out what to do about the humans. Their ancient fears were about to become very real. But Morrison knew something the aliens did not. The fears their ancestors had passed down through thousands of generations were both completely justified and totally wrong. Humans were indeed the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but not for the reasons the aliens expected. Navigator. Chen set course for meeting station. Alpha, standard approach speed. Morrison settled into his command chair and began reviewing the files. For the next phase of contact, the station had been built specifically for this meeting. It contained conference rooms designed to accommodate different alien biologies, translation equipment that could handle any known language, and hidden throughout the structure enough sensors and recording devices to capture every moment of the historic encounter. But most importantly, the station sat exactly on the boundary between human and alien space. It was perfectly positioned to demonstrate a very important point about human philosophy. They were not invaders crossing into alien territory. They were hosts welcoming guests into their domain. The next few hours would determine the future of the galaxy. Morrison had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. Soon the aliens would learn the truth about humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Dr. Melthari had not slept for 3 standard cycles. The meeting with the humans was scheduled in 2 days, and she needed answers that might not exist. Her species required very little rest, but even she was beginning to feel the strain. The ancient archives of the Galactic Council contained millions of records, but finding information about humans was proving almost impossible. She worked alone in the deepest levels of the Council's main library on the capital world of Nexus Prime. The older records were stored in crystalline matrices that required special equipment to access. Many of the files were damaged by age, and some were written in languages that no longer existed anywhere in the galaxy. As the Council's foremost expert on alien cultures and civilizations, Dr. Melthari had studied over 400 different species. She could read ancient scripts that scholars had forgotten and translate languages that had been dead for centuries. But the human records were different. They seemed to have been deliberately hidden or destroyed. The first useful information came from the archives of the Zephyrian Collective. The crystal matrix was badly cracked and several sections were completely unreadable, but what remained painted a disturbing picture of humanity's first contact with galactic civilization nearly 4,000 years ago. First contact with the human species occurred in the Outer Rim, territories of what is now Sector 7, the record began. Initial observations suggested a primitive civilization confined to a single star system. Standard diplomatic protocols were attempted, but the humans responded with immediate hostility. Dr. Melthari leaned closer to the display as she read the next section. Human vessels appeared throughout our territory within days of first contact. Their technology was crude, but their tactics were unlike anything we had encountered. They did not fight like civilized beings. They fought like animals protecting their territory. She moved to the next archive, which belonged to the long-extinct Korthax Empire. These records were even older and more fragmentary, but they contained information that made her scales turn cold with fear. The humans do not simply wage war, one entry stated. They evolve through conflict. Every battle teaches them something new. Every weapon used against them becomes a weapon they learn to use better. They adapt faster than any species we have encountered. Another Korthax record was even more disturbing. We attempted to negotiate a ceasefire with the human leadership. They agreed to meet on a neutral world to discuss terms. When our diplomats arrived, they found that the humans had studied our language, our customs, and our military capabilities in detail. They knew more about us than we knew about ourselves. Dr. Melthari found similar accounts in the archives of 6 other ancient civilizations. All told the same story. Humanity had appeared suddenly in galactic affairs and had proven impossible to defeat through conventional means. But the most chilling accounts came from the oldest records in the archive. The Altarian hegemony had ruled a quarter of the galaxy before humanity made contact. Their records spoke of humans with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. They are not like us, one report stated. We fight for territory or resources or honor. The humans fight for something else. They fight for the right to exist on their own terms. But it was another Altarian record that finally explained why humanity had vanished from galactic history. The human advance has been stopped. The combined fleets of 7 major civilizations have managed to contain them within their home system. Quantum barriers and gravitational manipulation fields now surround their territory. The barriers will hold for as long as we maintain them. Dr. Melthari sat back in her chair as the full truth became clear. Humanity had not been discovered recently. They had been prisoners. The early galactic civilizations had been so afraid of human expansion that they had trapped them behind artificial barriers for thousands of years. She accessed the final set of records from the Vortan Republic. These files were more recent, dating back only 3,000 years. But they contained the most terrifying information of all. Deep space monitoring stations report massive industrial activity within the contained human system, the record stated. Power generation has increased by 4,000% over the past century. Our scientists believe the humans are building something, but we cannot determine what through the barriers. The final entry in the Vortan files was a single line that made Dr. Melthari's blood freeze. The barriers are failing. May the ancient gods preserve us all. She quickly searched for any records about what had happened when the barriers failed, but there was nothing. The Vortan Republic had simply vanished from galactic history around the same time. So had the Altarian hegemony and the Korthax Empire. All of the civilizations that had participated in containing humanity had disappeared. Within a few hundred years of each other, Dr. Melthari realized that she was looking at evidence of the greatest extinction event in galactic history. Entire civilizations had simply ceased to exist, and it had happened right around the time the barriers containing humanity had failed. She tried to access records from species that had survived from that era, but found very little. Most of the information about the ancient civilizations had been lost or deliberately erased. The few surviving accounts spoke vaguely of a period of great upheaval when many powerful species had suddenly withdrawn from galactic affairs. But now she understood why no species had entered the region, known as the Silent Expanse. It was not empty space waiting to be explored. It was human territory, and every instinct passed down through thousands of generations warned against going there. The ancestors had contained humanity behind barriers for good reason. But those barriers had failed long ago. The question now was, what had humanity been doing during their 3,000 years of freedom? And why were they finally ready to make contact with the rest of the galaxy? Dr. Melthari looked at the clock and realized she had less than 30 hours before the meeting. She had found the answers she was looking for, but they only led to bigger questions. What had happened to all the ancient civilizations? Why had humanity remained hidden for so long? And what did they want now? She began preparing her report for Captain Zethara and Admiral Kurthak. They needed to know what they were dealing with. But she wondered if knowing the truth would make the situation better or worse. The galaxy was about to meet its oldest and most dangerous enemy face to face. The neutral meeting station hung in the darkness of space exactly on the boundary between human territory and the rest of the galaxy. It was a simple structure built specifically for this historic encounter. No weapons, no shields, just meeting rooms and life. Support systems designed to accommodate different types of alien biology. Captain Zethara felt her scales shifting through nervous colors as she walked through the station's corridors. Dr. Melthari walked beside her carrying a datapad filled with the disturbing information she had discovered in the ancient archives. Admiral Kurthak brought up the rear, his massive frame barely fitting through the doorways designed for smaller species. They entered the main conference room to find 3 humans already waiting for them. Admiral Morrison sat at the head of a simple metal table. To his right was a woman with Asian features who had introduced herself as Dr. Lisa Chang. To his left sat a man in military uniform with the bearing of a professional soldier. General Ryan Blake had said very little during the initial greetings, but his eyes missed nothing. The room itself was deliberately plain. White walls, simple lighting, and basic furniture. Nothing to distract from the conversation that was about to take place. But Zithara noticed that every surface was covered with sensors that were probably recording everything. Admiral Morrison spoke first, his voice calm and professional. "Thank you for accepting our invitation. I know this meeting raises many questions for your people. We are prepared to answer them honestly." Dr. Melthari placed her datapad on the table and looked directly at the human admiral. "We have reviewed our historical archives. We know that humanity was contained within your home system by ancient galactic civilizations nearly 4,000 years ago. We know that those barriers failed approximately 3,000 years ago. What we do not know is what happened to the civilizations that imprisoned you." General Blake laughed, and the sound made all three aliens uncomfortable. It was not a pleasant laugh. "Doctor, they learned the same lesson that every bully learns eventually. When you pick on someone smaller than yourself, you better make sure they stay smaller." Dr. Chang activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. It showed a three-dimensional map of human territory, thousands of star systems connected by shipping routes, massive industrial complexes and space stations, fleet bases that contained more ships than the entire Galactic Council possessed. "We broke through the containment barriers 2,100 years ago," Dr. Chang explained. Her voice was matter-of-fact, as if she was discussing the weather. "The civilizations that had imprisoned us discovered too late that barriers work both ways. They had trapped us inside, but they had also trapped themselves outside." The holographic display changed to show historical footage of human ships emerging from their territory for the first time in over a millennium. The vessels were massive and moved with purpose. They did not explore or negotiate. They went directly to the worlds of their former captors. Admiral Morrison stood and walked to the edge of the display. The Altarian hegemony had ruled a quarter of the galaxy through fear and military force. They believed that might made right. We showed them what real might looked like. The display showed Altarian worlds going dark one by one, not destroyed but simply abandoned as their populations fled deeper into unknown space. "We did not need to fire a shot," Morrison continued. "They took one look at what humanity had become during our imprisonment and decided that they wanted no part of the galaxy anymore." Captain Zethara found her voice. "You are saying that you drove entire civilizations into exile without fighting them?" General Blake nodded. "Captain, when you have overwhelming superiority in technology numbers and strategic thinking, actual combat becomes unnecessary. We simply appeared in their territory and politely suggested that they might be happier somewhere else." Dr. Chang manipulated the display to show the expansion of human territory over the following centuries. The Korthax Empire tried to fight. They lasted 6 months. The Vorthan Republic attempted to form an alliance against us. It collapsed when their allies saw what had happened to the Korthax. Admiral Kurthak leaned forward, his warrior instincts finally overcoming his diplomatic training. "If you possess such overwhelming power, why did you not conquer the entire galaxy? Why remain hidden in your territory for 3,000 years? Admiral Morrison returned to his seat and looked directly at the massive alien commander. "Because, Admiral, we learned something during our imprisonment that your people have never understood. True strength is not measured by what you can destroy. It is measured by what you choose not to destroy." He gestured to Dr. Chang, who changed the display to show recent activities throughout the galaxy. "We have been watching your civilizations for millennia. Wars that could have been prevented with simple communication. Genocides committed over territorial disputes that could have been solved through negotiation. Ecological disasters that happened because species were too proud to ask for help." Dr. Melthari studied the data flowing across the display. "You are saying that you remained hidden because you judged us unworthy of contact." General Blake's expression grew serious. "Doctor, we remained hidden because we realized the galaxy was not ready for humanity. Your species make the same mistakes over and over again. You never learn from history because you are too busy repeating it." The display changed again to show current military buildups throughout Galactic Council space. Several species were developing weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Research programs were experimenting with technology that could destabilize space itself. But that is changing, Admiral Morrison said quietly. Recent activity suggests that several council members are approaching the point where they could threaten not just their enemies, but all life in the galaxy. The Korthax remnant has been experimenting with dimensional warfare. The Zephyrian Collective is building planet killers that could chain react across solar systems. He stood again and walked to the viewport that looked out into space. The galaxy is approaching a tipping point. The level of destructive capability being developed by various species is reaching critical mass. If we wait much longer, there may not be a galaxy left to protect. Dr. Chang shut down the holographic display and looked directly at each of the alien representatives. The time for hiding is over. Humanity is ready to take our place in galactic affairs, not as conquerors, but as guardians, whether the rest of you want us to or not. Captain Zethara felt her scales shift to colors she had never experienced before. Fear and awe and something else she could not identify. What are you asking of us? Admiral Morrison smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Captain, we are not asking anything. We are informing you. The age of galactic chaos is about to end. Humanity is coming out of the shadows. Species that want peace will find us their most reliable allies. Species that threaten the innocent will discover what our ancestors learned 4,000 years ago. General Blake stood and moved toward the door. The meeting is over. You have 3 standard days to report back to your council and prepare them for the changes that are coming. After that, humanity begins active operations throughout the galaxy. As the 3 aliens left the station, Captain Zethara realized that everything had changed. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single conversation, and there was nothing anyone could do to change it back. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy had changed in ways that nobody could have predicted. The revelation of humanity's true nature and capabilities had sent shockwaves through every major civilization. Some species, like Captain Zethara's Velerans, had chosen to embrace humanity as potential allies and protectors. Others had formed desperate alliances to resist human influence. Admiral Morrison now stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime. The massive chamber could hold representatives from over 1,000 different species. Today it was packed to capacity as beings from across the galaxy waited to hear what the humans had to say about recent events. Behind Morrison, massive view screens displayed images from across the galaxy. Human ships patrolled trade routes that had been plagued by pirates for centuries. Human medical teams worked alongside alien doctors to fight diseases that had devastated entire worlds. Human engineers helped repair space stations damaged by wars that had raged for decades. The past 6 months had demonstrated something remarkable. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through force of arms. Instead, they had conquered it through competence and reliability. When problems arose anywhere in known space, human ships appeared to help solve them. When disasters struck, human aid arrived before anyone else even knew what had happened. Morrison activated his translation device and began to address the assembly. His words were broadcast simultaneously in over 300 languages and communication methods. Representatives of the Galactic Council, I stand before you today to report on recent activities of the Earth Federation throughout this galaxy. The chamber fell silent. Even species that were normally hostile to each other stopped their arguing to listen. Everyone wanted to know what the humans had been doing during their 6 months of open activity. 3 months ago, the Korthax remnant attempted to use a dimensional weapon against the peaceful Altarian colonies in the Vega system. The weapon was designed to tear holes in space itself and would have destroyed not just the target worlds, but potentially the entire sector. The view screens showed footage of human ships, moving with impossible speed and precision. A Korthax battle fleet that had taken decades to assemble was disabled in less than an hour. The dimensional weapon that represented their most advanced technology was carefully dismantled and its components scattered across empty space. The weapon was intercepted and neutralized by Earth Federation naval forces. Morrison continued. The Korthax fleet was disabled without casualties, and their crews were safely evacuated to neutral territory. The Korthax remnant no longer possesses the capability to threaten civilian populations. Murmurs ran through the assembly as representatives realized what they were hearing. The Korthax had been one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. Their dimensional weapons research had kept entire sectors in a state of terror. Humanity had ended that threat in a matter of hours. 2 months ago, the Zephyrian Collective deployed their planet killer fleet against the inhabited world of Kepler Prime. The dispute involved mining rights that could have been resolved through standard arbitration. Instead, the Zephyrians chose to threaten the extermination of 12 billion innocent beings. The screen showed images of massive Zephyrian warships surrounding a blue-green world. Each ship carried weapons that could crack a planet's crust and boil away its atmosphere. It was the largest deployment of destructive force in recorded galactic history. The planet killer fleet was disabled, and its crews were safely evacuated within 18 hours of deployment. The Zephyrian collective no longer possesses strategic weapons of mass destruction. The mining dispute was resolved through mediation with terms favorable to both parties. Admiral Kurthak sat in the section reserved for military representatives. His massive frame was tense as he listened to Morrison's report. The Galactic Defense Force had been planning operations against both the Korthaks and the Zephyrians for years. Humanity had solved both problems in less time than it took the Council to hold committee meetings. Morrison gestured to the screens, which now showed images of human medical teams working in disaster areas. Last month, a plague outbreak on Centauri 7 threatened to spread across the entire Sigma sector. The disease was highly contagious and had a mortality rate of 90% among most species. The images showed human doctors in advanced protective suits working alongside alien medical personnel. Mobile hospitals had been deployed from human ships, and research laboratories were analyzing samples around the clock. Human medical teams developed an effective treatment within 72 hours of arrival. The cure was distributed freely to all affected populations without regard to species, political affiliation, or ability to pay. The plague was contained and eliminated within 2 weeks. Dr. Melthari watched from the scientific observer section. She had studied the human medical response in detail. Their technology was decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. But more importantly, their approach was completely different. They had not demanded payment or political concessions. They had simply helped because help was needed. Morrison continued his report, covering dozens of similar incidents across the galaxy. Pirates eliminated from major shipping routes. Natural disasters met with immediate aid and reconstruction efforts. Wars ended through a combination of overwhelming force and skillful diplomacy. But it was not just the scale of human activity that impressed the Assembly. It was the consistency of their response. Regardless of which species was involved or what political complications might arise, humanity helped those who needed help and stopped those who caused harm. Captain Zethara sat with the Velaran delegation, wearing the new insignia that marked her as an official liaison between her people and the Earth Federation. Her scales showed colors of calm confidence that had not been possible 6 months ago. The Valorans had been among the first species to request formal alliance with humanity, and they had benefited enormously from the partnership. Morrison moved toward the conclusion of his address. The galaxy has spent thousands of years accepting war, genocide, and suffering as normal parts of existence. Species have fought over resources that could be shared. Entire civilizations have been destroyed by problems that could have been solved. He paused and looked around the vast assembly hall, making eye contact with representatives from dozens of different species. That age is ending, not because humanity has conquered the galaxy, but because we have chosen to serve it. The view screens changed to show human fleets positioned throughout known space, but these were not invasion forces. They were peacekeeping units working in cooperation with local authorities. Human ships flew alongside vessels from partner species. Human crews included volunteers from dozens of different civilizations. Any species that threatens innocent life will face the full power of the Earth Federation. Any species that seeks peace will find us their most loyal allies. Any species that wants to grow and learn and build a better future will discover that humanity's greatest strength has always been lifting others up alongside ourselves. Morrison stepped back from the podium as the assembly erupted in mixed reactions. Some species cheered and applauded. Others sat in worried silence. A few representatives walked out in protest, but they were vastly outnumbered by those who remained. As the session ended and representatives began filing out of the chamber, Captain Zethara made her way to where Admiral Morrison was speaking with other human officials. Her scales showed the deep blue color that indicated trust and respect among her people. "Admiral," she said, approaching the group of humans, "my government has asked me to extend an invitation for human representatives to visit our home world. We would like to discuss expanding our partnership." Morrison smiled and shook her hand in the human gesture she had learned to appreciate. Captain, we would be honored to visit Valora. Humanity has always believed that the galaxy is big enough for everyone to prosper together. Outside the assembly hall, human ships maintained their watch over the galaxy. Their crews were no longer entirely human. Volunteers from dozens of species had joined the Earth Federation to be part of something larger than their individual civilizations. The isolation was over. The guardianship had begun. And for the first time in galactic history, the future looked brighter than the past.